Uh, Good morning and welcome to this session. I'll be talking about optic disc findings in glaucoma basically, and optic disc evaluation in glaucoma is very critical, and even if you have all the investigations, still a good examination is actually fundamental to diagnosis of glaucoma and its management. And very often this is the first place where you actually suspect that person may have glaucoma, because other methods like IOP are not very reliable in diagnosing glaucoma. The thing is that when you are examining the optic disc, what do you look for? There are a number of signs actually have been described if you look at the textbooks, and there are so many. And more importantly, there's no, even the normal discs, they vary so much from person to person that it's actually very hard to put all this information logically into a case and then come to a conclusion. So thereby a systematic examination is actually required. There are a number of ways have been published and described, like you must have seen the Forge series of lectures where you have like 5 R's, ring, rim, nerve fiber layer, region of the peripapillary atrophy, disc hemorrhages, etc. Then you have C material, which is a very good material actually if you go through, and that gives you a very good idea on how you examine discs. Then you have DDLS, disc damage likelihood scoring system by Geospath. And so all these systems are actually good, but there are more than one system that only indicates that there are lacunae in between, and we really need to work more on this. What I'm going to talk today is a little bit different. This is our own like 4321 system. This came from the project that I'm currently involved in. I'm coordinator for this GONE project for the last couple of years, and this is an online project. So what we did was actually we put up 42 optic discs, which normal as well as glaucoma discs of variety of pathology, and we asked experts, first glaucoma experts all over the world, to comment on those discs, and 40 of the 42 discs and 37 glaucoma experts, the top people on the world, actually gave their opinion on that, and we have the data for that. Subsequently, we opened it up for the public, and 5,000 people have seen this disc and commented on that. And that data actually gave us very useful information on how people look at discs, what mistakes that make, what are the common mistakes, what are the reasons for underestimation and overestimation of glaucoma. And this data actually has been analyzed and published in some of the good impact factor journals already. So based on those experiences, we just came up with the arbitrary system, basically like how do you look at the disc? So we had a 4-3-2-1 rule. Basically 4 is like there are 4 things which we see outside the disc. Outside basically means the overall appearance of the disc, not necessarily outside, but overall appearance of the disc. So there are 4 things that look. Once you have assessed that, because those 4 things are fundamental and they will influence what you do subsequently. Then inside the disc you have a couple of 3 things basically, which tells you the health of the neuroretinal rim primarily. And then there are 2 signs which are important. They help you confirm what you are seeing. And then you have the final, say you have to make a decision whether there's a disease or not, and the change you are seeing is significant or not. So that's your final assessment that we have to make. So in the outside, there are actually 4 things which are important, like size, shape, tilt, and peripapillary atrophy. So if you get these things wrong right in the beginning, then you will make mistakes. So most people make mistakes if they don't assess them correctly. So this is actually quite fundamental. So as we know, the disc size varies a lot, and you have to interpret disc in relation to the disc size, like disc cup ratio. We know that larger cups could have larger disc, disc could have larger cups and all. But important thing is, the most important error that happens here is delineation of the scleral ring. I think that's the most important. So if you don't get the ring, the scleral ring right, then other parameters are going to be wrong too, because you'll calculate the CD ratio wrongly, and you calculate all the parameters are going to be wrong. So that's very important. And then you look at the peripapillary atrophy. Sometimes you can confuse the atrophy with the the area of peripapillary atrophy with the disc size. Then of course the shape, grossly the disc, they may look more or less similar, but if you delineate the ring, they are actually quite different discs. So once you have a differently shaped disc, I think then you have to adjust mentally you have to adjust all your parameters, that what you're looking at, where is the neuroretinal rim and where is the peripapillary atrophy. So that could actually confuse the assessment of the optic disc. So it's very important to get the disc right. Is it oval, or is tilted for that matter, or is got a torted disc. And this tilt is a very peculiar thing, because in a otherwise normal disc, you could have other ancillary investigation like HRT, OCT that helps you a lot. But in a tilted disc, I think none of those investigations are very useful unless you know in the kind of disc you are dealing with. And these are all examples of the tilted disc, and this could be very mild tilt like you see in this, or there could be there's a vertical tilt and there's a kind of horizontal tilt. So you have to be careful. And the clue to the tilted disc is actually you look at the vessels where they are arising or exiting, and in the tilted disc they usually tend to be off the center, and sometimes they might be hidden entirely under the neuroretinal rim. And then, of course, we have the peripapillary atrophy. We know the peripapillary atrophy is associated with glaucoma progression as well as occurrence of glaucoma. And this can actually confuse, again, the reader about, where the landmarks of the optic disc are. And then we go to the inside. There are basically three things we are looking at, which will tell you some assessment of the health of the neuroretinal rim. And those are the cup disc ratio, because that gives you how much is the neuroretinal rim in relation to the disc size. And again, the delineation of the landmarks is very important. So unless you get the rim correctly and the neuroretinal, the edge of the rim correctly, there could be errors. So you have to go by the contour. So there are different clues that we use while deciding where the neuroretinal rim is, and that is actually again more error-prone area. So you go by the contour. Not by the color. So basically you're using multiple cues when you are studying. You're looking at the color, you're looking at the contour, and you're also looking at the focus. Which areas are sharply focused, which are not sharply focused at particular setting, so that all these clues, your brain actually puts them together to come to a conclusion where the rim is. So this is again a skill which needs to be developed and needs time. And of course the notch is very important, and study we found that I think if you miss the notch of the neuroretinal rim, you're going to underdiagnose glaucoma. So again, notch basically means there's a focal loss of the neuroretinal rim, and this could be, if it's a focal, it appear as a notch, and if it's a little diffuse, then you can say there's an entire neuroretinal may be missing depending on the stage. And then of course the depth. The assessment of depth is also again important, because sometimes it may be a shallow, sometimes it may be a moderately, or there may be a deeply excavated cup. The problem happens when the disc cupping is shallow, and there it's hard to assess where you have where is the rim and where is the cup. So that the distinction becomes a little difficult. And then there are two other things which are which help you decide, and these are the nerve fibular defects and the hemorrhages. So if you look at these discs, there's a neuroretinal rim all around. There's a good neuroretinal rim in all three, except in this one there's the loss of the neuroretinal rim, and this nerve fibular is good, but you have nerve fibular defects there. So this is very important to pick up these nerve fibular defects. The smaller defects are easier to pick up, but when they become diffuse, they are a little hard to pick up, and you may have to look at the red-free photo for these. And this disc hemorrhage, of course, we all know that this kind of a pathognomic. It could be for other reasons also, but it strongly suggests if glaucomatous pathology if you see a disc hemorrhage. And then finally, what is the diagnosis? You have to put everything together to see whether there's glaucoma or there's no glaucoma. Now, this disc was actually shown to 5,000 people, not together, differently. And this is the same disc actually photographed on different occasions, one with the disc hemorrhage, one with the resolving disc hemorrhage, and here the disc hemorrhage had disappeared. Now, this disc, a lot of people could diagnose glaucoma, so probability was high, but this disc, a lot of people said it was normal. So again, if you're looking those signs, subtle signs, it could make the presence of disc makes a difference. And in this disc, actually, just the absence of disc hemorrhage, changes the perception of the people about this glaucoma or this no glaucoma. So ultimately, a lot of errors could be made, if you do not put everything together. So what do we actually miss? There could be multiple errors, and there could be errors in judging the outside parameters or inside parameters. Nerve fibular, missing of the nerve fibular, and again, if you don't synthesize the information correctly. Now, skill ring is, as I said, is important, and if you get that wrong, then other parameters are going to be wrong too. And then inside errors, we can overestimate the cup in a large disk, but can also underestimate the glaucoma probability in a small disk. And the errors that often result in underestimation are often due to missing of a notch. And that is actually very hard when cup is not deep. So if you have a shallow cup and if there's a rim abnormality, that's likely to be missed. And those are the cases which are actually difficult to diagnose. And also in the nerve fiber defect as hemorrhages. So as I shown in the last case, missing the hemorrhage or the nerve fiber, in the presence of hemorrhage, nerve fiber defects were also picked up quite often. But when the hemorrhage has disappeared, in the same eye, the nerve fiber layer was not defect. So if you have to correlate multiple signs, it's easier, but picking up single sign could be missed. So sometimes there is a reluctance to diagnose glaucoma also. Like in the last disk I showed after hemorrhage, there are signs, but somehow you want to confirm, you're not sure, and you want to confirm with other modalities. So I think that clinically, if you suspect there's a glaucoma, I think once you have gone through some practice sessions and you have been, looking at these discs on a regular basis, it may not be very difficult. So the confidence level needs to be built up, and then subsequently one can always investigate these cases. So the practice is required for looking at the disc, and there's a lot of material available at this website. It's free to the public, and actually can go and practice some of these discs. Thank you very much.